Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Caruso III, and I am the publisher of the Capital Sports Report. I am also the host of the Capital Sports Report Live. Tonight, we are joined by David Gates, a photographer for DragZine, RPM Magazine. He's also previously been a crew member for several Jet Dragster teams, and this year, he's going to be driving the Crossfire Jet Dragster. Welcome to the show tonight, David.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. It's good to finally see you again.
Yes. You told me previously that you were introduced to drag racing from your father. Could you talk about how you got introduced to drag racing and at what age?
So I couldn't even tell you the age. It was probably, being pushed around the track in a stroller with a binky in my mouth and some diapers or whatever. I was around the racetrack my whole life. My dad's been a mechanic all of his life. He owns his own business. We do automatic transmissions and stuff like that for a lot of drag cars and everything like that. So it was nothing to go to the track on a weekend basis to go and see guys that my dad's customers and stuff like that, see the transes work, and just get feedback and stuff while we're there at the track. Also help out, work on people's stuff while we're there. So I got introduced to racing at a very, very young age.
Who are some of the racing clients that your father has worked with through his shop?
Uh, Not a lot of big name guys. Probably people that you would recognize would be Wade Moody. He had the world's fastest pro stock diesel truck. He had the world's fastest diesel dragster. Five-time world champion for drag radial cars. Chris Little. Guys named Stephen Montgomery. A couple different people, but everything is mainly local people that we did a lot of work for.
Oh, some Earl said, "What's up, Buck?" I guess you know what that means.
I guess. What's going on, Earl?
A few years ago, when I met you, you do photography, and we met at Maple Grove Raceway.
Yep.
And you previously told me that you don't really do good with hobbies, but for some reason, you've stuck with photography. Why is that?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you, Anthony. My hobbies are very, very short lived. So I get into a hobby, I'm usually in there for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I get right back out of it. Photography was supposed to be a pretty um, quick little hobby to go out there, try it out, see if I liked it, and see if it was something that I wanted to pursue. And before I knew it, I was dropping money on lenses, cameras, going to all these big events, traveling, going and doing a bunch of stuff. And probably, I would say 6 or 7 years later, I'm still doing it. So this is not a hobby that ended in 2 weeks.
Outside of drag racing, what other stuff do you like to take photos of?
um, I'm not really a people person. So I'm not a people photographer doing stuff for weddings or anything. I don't do any of that. It's mainly going to the drag strip, or if I go to Washington D.C., which is about 45 minutes from here, walk around, take pictures of the monuments. But other than that, it's my main focus on photography is drag racing.
You told me that a picture led you to be a part of a drag there. A picture that you took eventually led you to be a part of a Jet Dragster crew member for Robert Albertson's Blazing Angel Jet Dragster team.
Yeah, so that all started, like I told you earlier. That all started with a picture. So I had moved to Georgia. I was living with my sister, and I had moved back because the job that I was working didn't work out. I wanted to come back home. So I moved back home, and then that weekend was the PDRA race at Maryland International Raceway. And I've never shot a PDRA race. So me coming back, I just came back and shot the inaugural Sweet 16 with Donald Long. I just came back home and PDRA was racing. I saw there was a jet car there, and I walked over to Albertson, which he was at his pit, and I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I stand in front of your car? I want to get a shot of your car, kneel down in front of it, just like a blacked out silhouette of this car. And Albertson was like, no, not at all. Come on over and you'll see 3 smoking fires. And as soon as that happens, get out of the way. I'm going to start doing burner pops. I was like, okay. Took a couple of pictures, went over there, showed him the pictures. And it went from, okay, you took these pictures. We're coming back in 2 weeks. How about you come and hang out with us for the weekend at Jet Wars? And I was like, okay. So came back, crewed for Jet Wars, helped them out a little bit. And I didn't know Robert from a stranger on the street. This guy was bringing me in. He was going to have me work on his jet car. And, I guess, just a little bullcrap, have fun event, get to meet him, learn who he was, whatever. But then after that, it started escalating to different events. So I was Jet Wars one weekend, and then 2 weeks later, we were going to Bill Bader's race at Summit Motorsports Park for the big Night Under Fire race. And then after that, it was, hey, we're going to Orlando. Hey, we're going down to Galat. We're going to all these different tracks. Why don't you come and crew for us and basically be a part of the team for the rest of the year? So that ended up leading to probably, I was with Robert for a good 4 or 5 years that I was crewing for him.
Okay. When you initially worked for the Jet Dragster, when he offered you after that picture to come out and be a crew member, were you like, oh no, I think maybe you're like blowing smoke at me? Like, no, I don't think this is true. Did you have some of that?
Well, it was kind of like, nah, there's no way this guy's let me come out here and do this. It was kind of, I don't know how to put it. It was kind of like a dream come true because I've always wanted to drive jets as a kid. So me getting the opportunity to come and crew on the car was like, okay, now this is my dream come true. I'm getting hands-on with these cars. This is something I've always wanted. So this was kind of like the all-time high for me in my book was to go and crew for this guy that I didn't even know. So it was definitely a crazy moment because I really didn't know that he was being serious. And when I went to the track, I was like, hey, I'm here. And he was like, oh, you actually showed. And I was like, yeah. So
what did you do for his team? Like, maybe even though you work for your fathers, but that's a whole different mechanical system there with those jets that you're not accustomed to from being a regular mechanic.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I'm used to running my car, so the Mustang. So I'm used to coming back from the round, pulling spark plugs out, checking over the data and all that from the run, pulling data, whatever. So coming and stepping into the jet world, I was expecting to be completely busy the whole time. But really in between rounds, all we do is unpack the parachutes, pull the parachutes out, repowder them, tape them up and stuff like that, get those ready to be packed back into the cans, bleeding the fuel system again, powdering the cans, putting baby powder and stuff in them, fueling the car up, packing the chutes, and basically getting the car ready for the next round. So it's not a lot of work that you have to do with these cars. And it was very, very amazing when I first started into it to see that it was not a lot of work.
At one of the last events with Robert Albertson, he needed a crew member, and he invited you to be the crew member. But you jokingly were you were serious, but you were like, you were kind of joking with him when I'll get to the point. You were like, I wanted to drive this thing, and he was like, well, be at the shop tomorrow. And you were like, I'll be there at your house tomorrow, kind of thing.
Yeah, Robert had a race, and it was at Brainerd Motorsports Park, which is down in Ringgold, Georgia. And Robert called me up, and he was like, hey, we have an event coming up. This is my last one. Can you come and crew for me? I don't have anybody to come and crew for me. I was like, yeah, sure. But it was kind of a last minute thing. I had to be there Friday. He called me on Wednesday. So he was like, I need you here. I need you here this weekend. Can you do this? Whatever. And I was like, Robert, it's last minute. If you want me to do this, let me make a pass on the car. You know, I'll come down there, but I'm making a pass on the car. So he was like, I'm going to call your bluff. You be here at my house. You can make a pass on the car. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to call your bluff. I'll be there, and I'll have all my stuff with me. So I showed up at his house. I think it was the next day in the afternoon. I was like, hey, I'm here. Knocked on the door, and then he was like, all right, we're going to do this. So going to the track, it was kind of nothing really bothered me about that morning. You know, it was, okay, we're going to go to the track. It's probably not going to happen. He's just bullshitting with me. It's not really going to happen. And we get to the track, we pull the car out, we go down, we look at the top end, you know, we're getting the car ready. He's pulling out all of his equipment and fire suit and stuff. And he's like, are you ready? And I was like, oh, this is really happening. So I started getting suited up. I get into the car, we're tightening the straps down, and, you know, we're getting ready to pull the car around to go to the starting line. And the nerves never really hit me until we actually made the turn and got onto the racing surface. Because then I was like, this is really happening. This is something I've always wanted to do. And I'm finally getting ready to make a pass in one of these cars.
What was that like when you did make that pass?
Oh, it's an experience that I'll never be able to describe the feeling of that actually happening. You know, it was a very emotional moment. You know, this was something I've always wanted to do. I'm going to keep saying it all night. It's something I've always wanted to do as a kid. And for us to bring the car around, the car start firing up, you're feeling the car shake, and it's starting to fire up. You're holding the brakes down. You're making sure that the car doesn't slide through. And, you know, it was really a wild moment to experience the power and how these cars really react. And it was an experience that I'll never forget.
With those jets, you have to do the burner pops and everything before the run. What was that sensation like in the car? Because it's so different than when you raced your other car.
It's definitely a different situation being in these cars. You know, we call them, well, I can't say we because I'm not really, you know, full on in the jets to have a lot of experience, but the jet people call them piston cars. You know, they're not the turbine cars and all that good stuff. So these cars, it's a whole different animal versus being in a regular daily driver or your street car or your X275 car or something like that. It's a different experience because we have two brake pedals and we have a hand throttle to where everybody else has a gas pedal and one brake pedal. Or God forbid you're driving a stick car, you got a clutch pedal. But we have two brake pedals, and when we're staging the cars, you know, the car's trying to slide through the brakes. You know, if you're in a J60 car, you're usually staging right around 100% to 102% throttle, and the car is actually trying to slide, and your wheels are locked up. So the car is literally pushing through these brakes. And in these 85s, I can stage at, you know, 107, 108%, you know, throttle, and the car will want to slide through. But, you know, that's just the difference in thrust. But, you know, when the tree comes down, you're lighting the burner, you're throwing the throttle forward, you're letting off the brakes at the same time, and you're trying to make sure that when you pull the parachutes that your feet aren't going to accidentally hit the brakes, because if that happens, you know, you've got a really, really bad situation on your hands. But it's a total different thing. You think that you know a lot about racing, driving, you know, street cars, all that good stuff. You know, you really think that you know a lot about racing. But then when you get into that car and you strap into that car and that car fires up, all that experience, all that knowledge that you thought you had, it's out the window because it's just a whole different beast that you're getting ready to handle. And there's no telling what's going to happen.
And when you were driving your car that you had crashed, you had the engine in the front. Now everything is behind you, and you got this jet engine behind you that's thrusting you forward.
It's definitely crazy. You know, you can very, very faintly feel the air being sucked in past you and going into the intake for the engine. You know, you can very, very faintly feel it, but you can tell that something is sucking behind you and you have no idea what's going on.
As a photographer, your following that you built and your exposure of taking pictures have led you to an opportunity of a lifetime that you dreamed about.
Yeah, I would have never thought in a million years by picking up one of these little cameras that it would lead to something I've always wanted to do.
You have worked for several different jet dragster teams.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about in the very beginning the Blazing Angel Jet Dragster team.
Yep.
Could you tell our audience who else you have worked for?
So right after Robert, when Robert was in the middle of selling his car and stuff like that, I crewed for Ernie Bogue with the Beast of the East. Ernie's very, very great guy, good friend of mine. Ernie's a very, very strong competitor with the Jets. It's not unusual to see him at a track and him not make a 300 plus mile an hour run. I crewed for him. He was at Bud's Creek, so he ended up calling me, asked me if I could come out and help him. I definitely did. I definitely wanted to take him up on that offer. So I helped him. Right after helping him, I started helping the Hannahs. They came to Maryland National Raceway. I helped them out for an event. Very, very good group of people to work with. Very professional. They're probably one of, if not the top team out there running jets right now. After the Hannahs, it was kind of a break because Robert didn't have his car anymore. Ernie wasn't coming up here running. Hannahs had already finished out their season and they started up running and they had a full crew for the following year. And I didn't really have anything going on, so I ended up getting a hold of Dawn Purdue and Scott Arriaga with the Wicked Sensation and got linked up.
There you go.
Yeah, see? Scott, you're 100% right. But I ended up getting a hold of them. Well, Dawn contacted me and asked me if I could come out and take pictures for them and do some social media posting and stuff like that for them. And, I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this because this is now my way back into the jet stuff, and this is me going back and doing what I love. I enjoy the traveling. I love the time on the road. It sucks being away from home because you're not really comfortable traveling and stuff like that. You always want to be home, but going out and doing this stuff, it's definitely it's what I enjoy doing. Getting into it with Robert and doing all that stuff for him. He definitely put something on me to where I don't want to stop. I just want to keep going.
Here's Don.
Hey, I'm ready to get in the beams, Don. I hope you're ready.
With like I said, photography, and that led to the opportunity. But when you were taking these, when you were working for these several different teams, you had these different roles from a crew member where you're working on the car. Don, you were a social media person, and you had to adjust to everything to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, they were like, I don't have the patience for this, and they quit. But for you, you stuck with it, and now you have the opportunity that you have that's coming up here in a few months.
Yeah, a few short months, I'll be able to do it. And like you said, it was hard to adjust to the different roles and stuff. Robert, I knew his program, I knew what was going on. Yeah, I guess Terry found out the hard way. But it was very hard to adjust to the different roles. I knew how Albertson's program operated, traveling with him for so many years. I knew how everything worked. And then going from him to Ernie, Ernie was kind of the same situation. So it wasn't really a big adjustment for that. But then going with the Hannahs and doing the Hannah thing, they were very, very strict about their stuff. Nothing underneath the trailer, nothing left underneath the car. Everything needed to be cleaned up. Everything had to have been done in a professional manner, which is why I think Hannahs are one of the top teams, like I said, if not the top team that's out there performing, because they're just very professional and they didn't make this name for themselves by doing anything half-assed. So, they've really done stuff by the books. Going with Dawn and Scott, everything changed a lot because now I have to, going with Scott and Dawn, everything changed. I was doing something different. I was doing social media postings. I was doing photography. I was working on the car. So I had to juggle everything with Scott and Dawn that I never had to do before. So it was more uh it was more of an experience. I don't want to say it was more of an experience, but it was definitely a lot more on my hands. Yeah. It was definitely a lot more on my hands trying to do stuff for Dawn and Scott because of all the different roles, the social media, the working on the car, traveling with Scott, driving the truck, the trailer, everywhere that we went, it was definitely, it was a different experience for me.
And those are the two that are commenting the most on the feed.
Yeah, I'm sure they're far from being done. So
You, as a Jet Dragster driver, well, now driver, but as in the community of that, there's not very many Jet Dragsters out there. Why is that?
honestly, it's a number of things. It's people not having the fundings, not getting the bookings. Um, oh my God, Scott. It's a number of things. It's not getting the bookings, not wanting to travel, all that good stuff. It's it's very hard to be in this kind of, I guess, racing, or however you want to call it, this business, this racing, whatever. It's hard to get into this and stay successful because you have, so many teams competing against each other to run in this country. We only have 50 states. There's a bunch of bookings at different tracks, but all these jet guys and, girls, Dawn, sorry, but all these people are competing for these same events, and it's a very cutthroat business, and it's very hard to compete with your other people. People like Hannah's, it's extremely hard to compete with them because they've been in this kind of racing for years and years, and they have such a good reputation and a good name that it's almost hard to be able to compete with them at an event. So somebody like me, if I want to go in and I want to run at a track and the Hannahs put in a bid for a contract at their track, they're going to go for the Hannahs 9 times out of 10 over me because who am I? I'm starting out. It's very, very hard to get into it. It's very hard to get into tracks. They're going to go for somebody that has more experience, more time, a really nice operation versus Joe Blow off the street that is starting out his first year.
This year, well, last year you made the licensing passes.
Mhm.
Could you talk about how you got connected with Dennis at Crossfire to allow you to drive the Crossfire Jet Dragster that you'll be debuting in racing this year, making 2 events this year?
So I got linked up with Dennis prior to Albertson selling his stuff. Uh, I had talked to Dennis. I heard he was looking for a driver. I asked him, "Hey, you looking for a driver?" I talked with him a little bit, and I got denied at first because this is when COVID had started and events were very, very slim. It was hard to find events, and he stated that current licensed drivers are going to try to find a seat just to keep their licenses current. And he told me, he said, if you're available next year, I'm sure I'll be visiting the same situation that I have now. Well, in the meantime, I'm crewing for Scott and Dawn, and Scott had made a post on Facebook about, me being a good crew guy and all this other stuff, and stated that at the end of the season that I would have a license. Immediately, I saw Dennis comment on it, and Dennis said, that would be me looking for a driver. And very shortly after, I received a message from Dennis, and Dennis explained the situation and stuff like that, and basically stated that he needs to drive, or he needs to find a driver, or he's going to have to, make another decision, but sooner rather than later. So me getting linked back up with Dennis was all because of Scott. Scott made that post, Dennis saw it, and that's how I got got back in touch with Dennis.
And then that led you to making your passes at Kentucky Dragway.
Yeah. So, once again, that was a big thing thanks to Scott. Scott got us the facility to run at. We linked up. So originally, I was going to make my license and passes in Scott's car, which I would love to have made passes in Scott's car. Scott has a really nice car, really nice program, great guy. Dawn's great. I really love them. They're down to earth people. But Scott agreed and Dawn agreed that it would probably be best if I tried to, get licensed in the car that I'll be driving. So, we set everything up. We got Dennis in there. We brought the car. We made our passes. We had to make 12 passes. And it definitely was not a walk in the park. We did hit some bumps halfway through there, but we got everything done and finally got the licensing signed. And, now I'm able to go out and do this.
Who signed off on your license?
So the license was signed by Dennis Roslansky and Dawn Purdue.
Which was your former driver for the Wicked Sensation.
Yeah. Yep.
You mentioned that you had to get a temporary NHRA waiver for 12 passes, but you felt like they were giving you some problems with it. Could you talk about why you felt like the NHRA was giving you problems when you were trying to get your license?
Well, see, jets are very, they're put on the back burner for NHRA. It's a very hard licensing process that the jet drivers have to go to. We have to go through physicals. We have to go through, all these different hoops. We have to submit forms to NHRA. We have to get forms back, and we have to get everything lined up in time before we even make our passes. So you have to submit all this different paperwork and basically get the stuff to NHRA before you can even do it. And I actually got into a very time crunching period as far as me getting my temporary license, because I was never told that I had to get a temporary. I was told that you had to inform NHRA, let them know what we're going to be doing, let them know where we're at, and basically, just let them know what the plan was. But I was 2 weeks out and I didn't have any of my paperwork, nothing like that. So I had to hurry up and get my physical done. I overnighted the papers to NHRA in California. I had them overnight me my temporary license. I had them email me my temporary license. I had to go. I went the extra steps to make sure that myself was covered, so that way I could even perform these passes. So it's very hard to go through and to do all the paperwork. I've got all the paperwork sitting in this drawer that I had to fill out. I made copies of everything, but it's a lot of paperwork, and you have to fill everything out, make sure everything is completely filled out, because if not, they'll reject it, send the paperwork back to you. You got to refill it out again and all that stuff. But it's a long, drawn out, tiring process to even get licensed.
You mentioned moments ago that you were never told about a temporary license during your time crunch. Why was that? Why didn't someone tell you that you needed a temporary license?
So the person who I was getting my information from was actually Scott. Scott had got licensed quite a few years back. Scott's been in this business for over 25 years, just driving himself. His dad, Al Arriaga's, had over, 70 years plus in the jet world. So when Scott got licensed, his process was a whole lot different than what mine was. So they had changed it over the years, and Scott had no idea. So it's not really Scott's fault. Scott, was just giving me the information that he knew. And, Scott was the one that told me, hey, inform NHRA, let them know what's going on. And then that's when I found out what had to be done. So it wasn't really anybody's fault. If anything, it was more my fault, because I didn't take the time to go through and read everything and make sure that I had all my stuff squared away. But it was definitely a time crunching period to try to hurry up and get everything done. And I'm not a last minute type person. So 2 weeks out, I'm stressing out because I feel like I'm pushed for time. I need to get this done. I have to get this done as soon as possible. And that's why I overnighted the papers. I wanted to make sure they got there on time. I wanted to make sure everything got approved, so that way I could even do this. And we were coming up, like I said, the 2 weeks. We were going the week before to Bill Bader's race at Summit Motorsports Park. And then that week after we left Summit Motorsports Park, I was getting licensed all that week. So it was, to me, it was a very, short on time thing to have to go through and do all that.
You previously told me that your mother loves Jet Dragsters. Can you talk about her love for the Jet Dragsters and how she may be ecstatic for you living your dream of being a Jet Dragster driver and following in the category that she loves?
So I definitely blame my mom for this, 100%. When I was a kid, the one event that we looked forward to every year was Jet Wars. And if it wasn't Jet Wars, then it was the President's Cup, because you had the IHRA there and they had jet cars there. That's what we looked forward to, was any of the jet
She
cars.
just commented.
She is definitely to blame for this passion for jets. Every year we look forward to that one event. And 9 times out of 10, when we went to these events, it would rain out and we would get really bummed because we would never get to see these jet cars. And, when I first started, crewing for Robert and all this other stuff, my mom was, the first one to push me and tell me, do this. This is, you want to do this. This is what you've always wanted. It's not, sure, my mom has wanted it, but this is something I've always wanted. But if I would have to say my mom has a bigger passion for jets than what I do. I mean, she is gun-ho about them.
What does your sister and father think? I know when we previously talked, your sister used to compete in motocross, and that brought you up here to Oak Ridge Township Raceway Park back in the day. And I've known your sister from your mother's post, being Facebook friends with her, that your sister does paintball, and you might think that's crazy, but she might think you're crazy with what you do, and your father might say the same thing.
See, my sister, she was the all-American
Dawn's
badass.
post.
Oh yeah, see, here we go. So now Dawn's got a fan too. My sister was definitely an all-around badass. She did the motocross thing for years. She ended up going pro women's ATV. She had broken a lot of bones. She's been through a lot of pain. She's been through a lot of shit. So my sister would never let the injuries or anything like that. She got looked down a lot because she was a woman and people didn't think that, women would be good motocross racers and stuff like that. It was something that never got her down. She always pushed to do better and better and better. And I will be the first one to tell you, my sister is one that if she gets into something, she's going to give it her all. She is going to either go to the top or she is going to die trying, because that's what she's very competitive. And, I tell my sister, hey, I'm going to get in a jet car. This is when I was going to go run Albertson's car. And she was, I believe, 2 or 3 hours down the road, where she lived in Georgia. And her and her friend Alexis got in the car, drove up to Georgia, or drove up to the track, and basically came there and supported me. My mom wasn't able to be there. She was on a trip already and had no idea any of this was going on. So, it was definitely cool, because my sister was like, all right, don't be a wussy. Make sure you hold it all the way out and, don't let off. And, if you do, screw up, I'm going to make fun of you for it. So Nicole was very, very competitive, even with that. She was like, do you need me to get in the car and do this for you and all that good stuff? But she's definitely a supporter. She does like it. Probably not as much as me and mom, because she was never a drag racer. She was either ATVs, paintball, stuff along that line. She was that route, not me. I've always been a drag racing fan, and that's how it's going to stay. My dad, on the other hand, is not a fan of me driving a jet car at all. He does not like this, and but he supports it. Even though he doesn't like it and doesn't like the idea of it and how dangerous it is, he still supports my decision to do this.
Well, any form of motorsports is dangerous.
Yeah.
You mentioned that your sister said, "Oh, maybe I'll do this for you." Has she now that you're with this team, and they have a second dragster, maybe she'll get licensed in it maybe one day?
No, I highly doubt it. I mean, if Nicole did anything, I think she would get in the car to make a pass or something like. I'm sure she would get into it to see what it's like, but I don't see her pursuing it or trying to get licensed or anything like that. Because, like I said, just drag racing was not her thing.
Who are some of your mentors in the jet dragster world? Scott, Don, Roberts, Al, some of those.
Well, definitely the ones that you mentioned. You know, there's a lot of great people that came before. You know, these people. You got the Dustman brothers. You got Billy Mateo. You've got a lot of big names out there. Al Z, Jaron Mott, Sporty Bandamere, Tony Franco. You know, you got all these people out there. Shelly Siegel. There's tons of names that are in the jet world, but you know, I would say the biggest ones and the ones that I look up to the most are the ones that I've crewed and helped out over the years. So definitely, you know, Big Al, you know, Al Hanna, he's definitely, you know, one that I look up to. Scott, Dawn, you know, even Scott's dad, Al Arriaga, you know, I never got to meet him. He ended up passing away before I, you know, came with the team. But, you know, from what I've heard over the years and, you know, everything like that, Al was a very good guy. And, you know, it's very unfortunate I didn't get the chance to meet him and work on the car with him. But, you know, he's definitely somebody, you know, he's one that I would look up to because of all of his experiences, years in the Jets. He did the Nostalgia Pro Stock. He did Funny Car. He did all sorts of stuff. So Al was one that, you know, went out there and did any form of racing, whatever it was he wanted to do it.
Last August, I guess it was your mother or someone who got this for you. But I know there was a Facebook post that had your mentor, John Force, making a little comment of you saying good luck to you when you're going to do this. And you were busting on me because I had John Force as a guest like a month ago. And I've known him for 15 years. And I said, when we go to Maple Grove, I'll take you into this pit area so you can meet him. So, what was that like to have John Force, the guy that you idolize, make that video for you?
See, I had no idea what was going on. So, Mom came with us in August to Bill Bader's race at Summit Motorsports
And she
Park.
just commented.
Yeah, she's the one to blame for that one too. But you know, Mom came back to Dawn's pit, Dawn and Scott's
Somebody's
pit.
watching Dale.
What's going on, Dale? You know, Mom came back to Scott and Dawn's pit with this smile on her face, and I'm like, "What the hell did you do?" And she was like, "I had to do it. I had to do it." And she pulls up this video of John Force, you know, talking about me getting my license and stuff like that, and telling me good luck and put my heart into it and all that good stuff. You know, it was definitely it was more of a starstruck moment because John Force is somebody that I watched as a kid on TV racing and getting all of his championships and stuff like that. You know, I'm a huge John Force fan, so to see that video, him say my name, tell me good luck and stuff like that, you know, that was definitely a good moment for me to hear that.
When she got that video, you said you had no idea that she was going to do that?
No, I had no idea. She snuck away from the pit area for a little while. I believe I was helping Scott pack the parachutes when she came back over with the video, but I had no idea what she was doing. She disappeared, didn't see her. I even asked somebody, I was like, where did my mom go? Well, she ended up coming back and she had this grin on her face and she had the video. But he remembered later. Oh yeah, he even remembered me at the autograph session. You know, we're sitting there at the autograph session. He was like, "Oh, world famous jet car driver, blah blah blah," and all this other stuff. And you know, it was, but he only remembered me because of my crazy stalker mother. You know, she went over there and forced him to do this video. So he saw her and he was like, "Oh, okay, so I better remember this kid." You know, so hopefully when we go to the next NHRA race and John sees her, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember you too."
Maybe that's Maple Grove in September.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I'm supposed to be going to the one at Virginia Motorsports Park. So
So
hopefully,
in like a few weeks.
yeah, hopefully I'll see him there and maybe he'll remember me. I highly doubt it.
Well, when you come out for the Jet Card this year, you previously told me about 2 events this year, one maybe in Denver. What is your goals for this 2022 season?
The main goal for this season is basically I want more seat time in the car, but at the end of the day, the main goal is to have safe passes, come back in one piece, make sure the car's in one piece, and basically be able to come back and do it again for another weekend if we want. That's the main goal.
With you being in Maryland and Dennis is in Kentucky or around that area, how often are you able to connect with one another to potentially say, "Can I go test at Kentucky Dragway?"
It's a very hard thing, with these jets. You don't want to put a lot of laps on them if you don't have to. So it's a very hard situation. You don't want to go out and test and risk hurting the motor because you wanted to go out there and basically just get seat time and all that other stuff. You don't want to take the chance of blowing your car up and then being out of season and not having any bookings. So it's more of a, okay, before we get to the track, maybe we'll make a couple of passes or something like that to make sure that everything's good, the car's performing, we're good, tune the car a little bit, whatever the case may be. But other than that, it's very hard. It would be a whole lot easier if Dennis was 5 minutes down the road, but instead Dennis is 12 and a half hours out in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. He's in the small town of Paducah. So it's definitely hard to be able to connect with him and then get out there and see him because it's just so hard to be able to do that. And see now, talking about RPM, there's somebody that helped me out along the way, Mark Teneri. Mark definitely helped pave the path to get me in and do all my stuff.
So with the Jet Dragsters, you just show up and make the runs that you're scheduled to. You said for testing, you can't really test these things like a normal car or a dragster because of the fact that you don't want to damage these things and then you're out $10,000 booking show or $20,000 booking show.
Well, it's very hard because you have these cars and it's a lot of work to go into these things and fix them. Like Scott and Dawn, Robert Albertson, Jaron Mott, all those guys, they all have J60 cars. So it's very, very hard to come across J60 parts. So when you hurt one of those, you might as well throw this thing in the scrap bin or something. It's extremely hard to get a hold of those parts to where my car with a J85 or something like that, those parts are a little bit more plentiful. So you are able to find those. But you don't want to risk hurting something when you have an event coming up and, just destroying something and then basically ruining your booking, and then you're not able to go out and perform and do anything like that. So it's very hard. But with Scott and Dawn or with Robert Albertson or any of those people, you don't test. When you show up to the track, you pull your stuff out the trailer, you pack your parachutes, throw fuel in the car, bleed the fuel system, take it up there, and you make your passes. There's not many times that you get to go out and test these things. And that's another thing. It's not a reoccurring occasion a lot of times to see these cars at a test session, at Maryland National Raceway, Cecil County, Maple Grove, or something like that on a test and tune night to see them make passes. It's basically unheard of. It does not happen all the time.
With the current dynamics in the world today, with the inflation, the delay of parts, have you in the Jet Dragster community, have you seen that like impacting and hurting some of the teams from competing in some of the events that they have been scheduled to compete in?
Well, it's not really affecting the jet community as much. These engines and stuff, you don't go to the jet store and buy a hot end or something like that. A lot of this stuff has to be repaired by the owner or somebody else who has a jet or something like that. Everything is mainly worked on, repaired, fixed, whatever, by the jet people themselves. So it's everything is done within the United States. Everybody tries to somewhat come together. It's a very, like I said, very cutthroat business. But some people will come together and will help out. Some there are some good people out there, and there are some bad people. I'm not going to mention any names, but it's definitely it's a hard business to get into.
For a while there, the NHRA was using Jet Dragsters on Friday and Saturday night to close out their shows. But this season, and like last season, that has gone away. Is it due to the pandemic, or is there something else going on that they don't want you guys competing at their shows anymore?
I don't believe that it's anything to deal with the pandemic. Like I said earlier, the Jets are kind of shadowed with NHRA. We used to have big events. There used to be multiple events a year where Jets would come together, have a big meet. It would be televised and stuff like that. And that stuff died off. The more it died off, the less you would see of the Jets. And I think that's a part of the hard licensing process, is because they don't want a lot of jet cars out there running still. So it would be nice to have more events than just one a year. Bill Bader's race, or Sporty Bandamere puts on a really, really good event at Bandamere Speedway. It would be nice if there was more events out of the year to bring in more jet cars, and to have like an elimination style race and a qualifying ladder, and take this many out of the qualifying ladder, or whatever. It would be nice to have a bigger event to actually make us compete and see who the top dog is. Right now we only have one event a year, and that's the North American Jet Car Championship with Bill Bader at Summit Motorsports Park. So it would be nice if there was more events out there to where we could actually compete and everybody come together, and hopefully it would mend a lot of relationships and bring people closer together. But I think it's really driving people away from each other.
You said that the NHRA doesn't want a lot of cars out there. Is it because they just want to work with the certain individuals, like Elaine Larson when they used to bring her out, or the Hannahs, or Ernie Berg, or Ernie Bogue, and like when they get out west and they would bring out some other people, but it seemed like they only had their particulars that they would only bring out.
Well, it's not their particular people that they want to bring out. Anybody can contact NHRA if they're in an event and say, hey, we would like to bring the jet here. We would like to run it. NHRA will usually authorize you to come out and do it. But it's not them playing favoritism or anything like that. It's basically, I'm not sure what the bookings are as far as NHRA. I haven't had to go through that or run any of those events, of course. But I'm sure it's probably a low amount or whatever, and not a lot of people want to go out and do it. But now if they're local to you, they're a few hours down the road or whatever, and you want to test something that you just tried out, why not go and do it in front of a crowd, or at an NHRA race where the facility is top notch? You've got all the best safety people there, the best, track officials and stuff like that. Why not run it on a really nice surface?
I know last September when I was not covering, when I was there at the Maple Grove Keystone Nationals, Ernie Bogue was there on Friday, and he didn't make a pass. Saturday he was there, didn't make a pass, and there was something, I don't know what happened, but there was something that happened that he just showed up and wasn't allowed to do anything.
Yeah, that I don't really know much about. I know the one year that we were there with Sarah, and we were doing everything in Maple Grove. Ernie was there and was scheduled to run, but I believe they ran out of time or something happened. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not really recalling that much, but I know he was supposed to run then. But NHRA does their best to try to get us out there and make the passes, because it's the jet cars are more for fans. It's a fan based, car. As a kid, you see smoke. You smell the nitro on funny cars. All that stuff. But something that kids like is a lot of smoke, a lot of fire, and loud noises. And jets are what kids like. Kids will come out there. They see the jet cars for the first time. They come up to it, and they're all scared to get around it because they know what these things are capable of. And it's more of a fan based thing. So I believe that's why NHRA tries to push and bring them in.
In September each year, Bill Bader has a spectacular event. And recently, as of a few years ago, he launched, the event had a jet car championship, and the winner was called the champion. And that's where you guys were at last year,
Mm-hmm.
where your mom got the video for you. What's that event like for the jet community that you were a part of with Don Pertu's team last year?
Well, that race is the biggest race out of the year for us. They try to bring in 12 of the best jet teams out there, and they try to make them compete and see at the end of the night who will be crowned the North American Jet Car Champion. Me personally, I've only experienced that race as a crew member going there to work. I've seen some of the behind scenes stuff. I go into the tower for the drivers meeting. I get to sit in this room with a lot of the drivers. You got John Force, Antron Brown, all these guys in there for this one drivers meeting. And it's definitely cool as a crew person, as a team, whatever, to experience that race. But as far as the fan base side, this is the number one race out of the year. Bill Bader explains this race as the most the most attended, greatest single day drag race in the world. Bader sells out every year, and it's usually right around 47,000 people come into that track. And Bader does not disappoint. He spends $100,000+ just in fireworks to put on a fireworks show. And something different that he did last year, at the end of the night, all the jet cars after their last pass and stuff like that, they sit at the top end and they wait for the lights to go out and the fireworks are going on, whatever. And then while the track has got a bunch of smoke in it from all the fireworks smoke and stuff like that, they bring all the cars in under laser lights and stuff like that. And then at the end of the night, all the fans can come down on the track and get their opportunity to get their last autograph or their last picture or whatever the case may be. But that race, Bader has geared more towards the fans and putting on a really good show.
Could we potentially see you race at that event either this year or in the near future?
It's not going to happen this year. I contacted Bader, and they were already booked up for that event. So you will not see me there at that event unless I do go with Scott or Dawn or one of those teams to go out there and help them. But maybe in the future you'll see me there and competing for that championship.
When you are a photographer, you're hiding behind the lens, trying to get the best picture. But when you're driving, you have to sign autographs and be there for your team. How not uncomfortable, but it's got to be like a whole new experience for you to go from one side to now people want your autograph and they know who you are now.
Yeah, it's as a photographer, you're standing on the wall, you're out in front of the crowd, and you're taking pictures and stuff like that. When you get with the jet, people are coming over and they're looking at you like, oh my God, this dude's crazy. Let's get a picture with him. Let's get next to the car. Let's get an autograph and let's communicate. It's definitely a different situation going from pictures to being a jet dragster driver. I'm a people person. I love talking to people. I don't care who you are. I could never met you, and I can carry out a conversation with you. I love talking to people. I love hearing people's stories. but it's, going and taking pictures. It's more of a, okay, I'm laid back. I don't want to talk to anybody. Leave me alone. I'm there. I'm having fun. Whatever. Don't talk to me. But that's not how it happens. People still talk to you as a photographer. They there's people in the crowd. Hey, camera guy, get my picture. Whatever, and they're doing something stupid or whatever the case may be. But it's definitely different going from photography to a jet car, or from my street car racing on Friday nights at Maryland National Raceway to running a jet car and having to interact with people. When you're running your street car, nobody comes by your trailer to talk to you. Nobody takes the time to ask questions or anything like that. Some people walk by, stop, look at the car, and then walk away. That's it. But with the jet car, you've got people, you got fan after fan, person after person coming over and wanting to talk and get that picture, buy a T-shirt, get an autograph, just talk to you. They want to learn stuff. And the famous thing with everybody that sees these jet cars, hey, you want me to come over there and get in it? Yeah, sure, come on, hop in the car. Let's see if you can do it.
Going back to the photographer aspect for a second, when you cover these national events, when we are at the amateur events, when they have the top field dragsters and the funny cars, and you're on the barrier, the concrete wall, and you get to feel the flames coming at you and the cars going fast by you, and then seconds later for you, when you go into the jet dragster world again, you suit up and it's like, hold up, I was just by these fast cars when I'm a photographer, and now I'm in one of these fast cars that go almost as fast as those two cars go.
Yeah, jets are very close to top fuel and nitro funny car and stuff like that. It's like you said, it's a weird situation going back from the photography to strapping in the car. When you go to the national events and stuff like that, you're standing on the wall. You've got nitro coming out of the pipes on a funny car. It's smacking you in the face right there on the wall. It's a weird experience being on the wall and then hopping in the car and then being in there. It's very it's a surreal moment. It's okay. I was just sitting here taking pictures of John Force and stuff like that one weekend. Okay, now this weekend I'm going to go and I'm going to sit in a car and strap a racket to my back and go 290 to 300 mile an hour in one of these cars. It's definitely a crazy deal.
You mentioned Maryland International Raceway, which is close to your home,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been going there for a while. And at one point, your mother even worked there. I don't know if she still does, but she did work there. What's that track like meant to you? Because you kind of got started there with your photography, I'm guessing.
That track is everything to me. Royce Miller, Jason Miller, Chris Miller, Gene Herbert, Chris Higgins, all those guys. All the staff behind the scenes at Maryland International Raceway, they're like a second family to me. Like I told you earlier, I grew up at Maryland International Raceway. My first pass ever in a drag car, whatever you want to call it, I was in a junior dragster. My first pass was at Maryland International Raceway. After, the junior dragster deal, I got out of that, did the dirt bike thing for a minute, didn't like it, got out of it. My next thing that I got into was my Mustang. So it was the first pass for my Mustang. It was the first pass in a pro mod when I drove for Eddie Fast. All that that was my home. That's where I'm comfortable. That's where I want to race. And, it would mean everything to me to be able to bring the jet here and run in front of all my, my hometown people.
Is that going to happen?
Hopefully, I'm going to keep working on Royce and see if I can get Royce to agree to bring me in, and hopefully one day it happens, but we're not 100% sure, but it'll eventually happen.
Well, you said previously that they have Jet Wars there, so that would be your in if you can get in.
That would definitely be my in. That would be a really bittersweet moment to be able to run at Jet Wars, because like I said earlier, that's that was the race that me and my mom looked forward to going and seeing every year. So to be able to go and compete into that event would be, that would be the event out of the whole year. I don't care where I race at. That would be it.
You previously told me that there's just going to be 2 events this season and maybe more next year. What is the future goal? How many events would you like to do? Say maybe like next season, if you are able to put together a semi-full or full schedule.
The end goal, I don't really have a goal set on how many bookings I get. I'm very thankful for any booking that I get, especially being new into this. There's teams like Scott and Dawn that this year it's either 18 or 19 events that they have to compete in. And they have a very full schedule. The Hannahs are another team that book right up there with Scott and Dawn. So, maybe years and years and years from now down the road, maybe get up to their level and book as many events as them. But for right now, me getting my 2 events this year due to some complications, those 2 right there are perfect for me. I'm glad that I have 2. I'm glad that 2 tracks are giving me the opportunity to come and run. And, maybe I'll book another event later on down the road this year or something like that if everything goes right. But until then, I'm going to be thankful for any event that I do get.
How long would you like to be involved with the Jet Dragster? Or do you see like a time and day, like a time down the road where maybe these die off and you can't go into one of these anymore? You got to do something else.
Until I stop breathing and I die, this is what I want to do. I want to be in the Jets. If it came down to it and we had to move on to something else, or the whole jet car thing died out, or NHRA ruled them out and we're done, I would probably find something else to do. But until then, jet cars are my thing.
So you can be in this for 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now.
I plan to be into it until I die.
What we do, speaking of jet drivers, you have Bob Motts, I believe his name is, right? He's
Bob
like 80 years old, right?
I believe Bob is in his upper to mid 70s. I'm not 100% sure how old Bob is, but he's a legend. At Summit Motorsports Park, he's got a grandstand section named after him. Bob is one of the biggest names in jet cars. Bob Moats, Billy Matteo, people like that. Those are the big names in jet cars. So Bob is still out there running, and it's kind of cool to see him at the track because he's riding around in a little power chair, the little rascal scooters. And at the end of the day, he's going to end up in this, I don't even know how many pounds of thrust this truck puts out, but he straps himself inside of this jet truck and blasts down the quarter mile at 200 plus mile an hour, and gets out of that and rides his little scooter around the track and then waits for the next pass.
See what David said? Dale said?
I like to see David running a few. Oh yeah, maybe one day.
Well, we got forced. He's about to be next week. The living legend has a birthday, so May 4th is his birthday. So what's he gonna be? 73, I think, 74, something like that. So
I believe 73.
73. So he's gonna be up there in age, but he's still kicking butt.
Yeah, John's not letting his age get the best of him. He's still out there running them.
Yeah, and speaking of Bob, I think it was last year or maybe a year prior to that, I saw a video in his jet truck, and it burnt down the wall from the fire from his jet truck, and it caught on fire. Like
So yeah, that's usually Bob's signature move at Bill Bader's races. He backs the truck up all the way up against the Kelly Services sign and fires the truck up and starts covering the whole thing with smoke, and then lights it with the fire and it literally covers the whole sign. I mean, that whole sign gets incinerated. I mean, it just gets plastered. But Bob wasn't able to do it last year due to COVID and stuff like that, and all the fundings and stuff. Bill didn't want the sign burned down, so they saved it. And Bob was like, "Yeah, it'll live this year, but next year it's going down." So,
so this August is going down.
I'm sure this August, Bob Motes has got something up his sleeves.
Have you talked to him? Have you interacted with him at all?
No, I've not really talked with Bob. He's a hard person to read. You don't know whether to go over and talk to him or something like that. And I'd like to have a conversation with him, get in his head and see, get some of his knowledge, because like I said, he's been in this stuff for years. He's a legend with this, so it would be nice to sit down and be able to talk with Bob Motes and just see what his take is on everything. But he's definitely he's a legend, and it's gonna be he's gonna be a good one to sit down and talk with.
Well, David, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Anthony.
Everyone, outside of being on Facebook Live right now and YouTube Live, this video will be uploaded onto Rumble. Also, it will be uploaded onto BitChute, BITCHUTE, and it would also be converted into a podcast on Anchor.fm in the coming days as well. Thank you again, David, for joining us, and good luck for your 2 races this season and next season when you do come out with the Jet Dragster. And I'm sure, I am sure maybe in a few months, we will cross paths again at Maple Grove Raceway.
Of course we will. We'll have to go to dinner.
Of course, we'll go to Shady Maple.
You know exactly where we're going.
Oh, your mom just said bye.
All right, Anthony. Well, it was a pleasure being on here tonight. And I thank everybody for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing everybody this year at the track.
Okay. I'm signing off now.